I have figured out Secret Wars. To really just drive up that threat value. Because, yeah, sure, the fact that he eats planets, that's bad enough. Especially if you live on that planet. But, because we know that this is the multiverse saga, and they're leading into the Fantastic Four entering the mainstream Marvel universe with the new Avengers films and the after ones, whatever comes after that, it wouldn't be shocking to bump up that threat level of Galactus to multiversal levels of threat. He is a higher dimensional being. This is how we perceive him as he just tucks his way down into our dimension. We see him as a giant man instead of whatever horrid entity that just incomprehensible that we would otherwise see, that our brains just turn into a giant dude in space armor. So he comes into the universe, and he's trying to eat it and destroy it, blah, blah, blah. Reed Richards in Secret Wars, he creates the Ark? Is that what it's called? As a sort of, exactly what it sounds like, a way to survive the end of the universe, which is how Miles Morales and some of the other characters wind up in Battleworld having remembered the past, and, like, you know, that causes problems. There's 2 shuttles that end up there, I think. One's full of villains that all kill each other or whatever. The other's full of heroes. But I foresee that being something that would come into play nearing the end of the film. You know, they fail to stop Galactus or something, or that's how the next Avengers maybe starts, or whatever Avengers introduces them if they don't go over to the mainstream universe now in their own film, which would be shocking if they didn't, because they only got this one to do it, because the next Fantastic Four won't be until after the Avengers. Galactus, kind of lost my thought, an omniversal threat, a multiversal threat that they're then going to have to deal with, and probably be incorporated some form or fashion with Doomsday and Secret Wars. Maybe he comes into play like he did in Infinity Gauntlet in the comics. Galactus, I don't think he even shows up in the Secret Wars by Hickman. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU as Victor Von Doom, seemingly of either the Fantastic Four's universe or some other alternate version. Definitely not in the mainstream universe. Although, like I was saying, if there's some sort of device or machinery that's brought into this, I'm trying to think of how you could get Victor Von Doom from the Fantastic Four universe to the mainstream universe for this, but I feel like they might not do that. I feel like Doom might just be doing his own thing, maybe. Or he either steals something from Reed, or he creates his own multiversal traveling machine device arc thingy, and he takes himself with it. Or, you know, he escapes himself, is what I'm trying to say. On his own, because he doesn't need Reed Richards' help. So he escapes on his own. Galactus maybe follows him, or he somehow works with Galactus. If they're going the comic route, they're going to have to somehow get him involved with Doctor Strange, which, what could they do there? Bring evil Doctor Strange in, maybe, somehow? Maybe Doctor Doom in between Fantastic Four, assuming he's in it, and Avengers Doomsday. Maybe he's traveling the multiverse, collecting up villains, creating the Cabal. And that leads into Avengers Doomsday, which is no doubt going to be something involving the Incursions. And maybe Doctor Doom uses his magic and science to somehow fucking send, like, maybe the Fantastic Four are about to dip the universe. They realize that that's not a good idea, but they somehow accidentally still get sent through whatever wormhole system to the main universe, the main MCU. Doctor Doom then uses his abilities to do what they did in the comics, the Illuminati in the comics did with did they use the Infinity Gauntlet, maybe, I think? Where they're like, opening up other planes of existence to other Earths and making those Earths collide to save their Earth. That sounds insane, what I'm saying. But if you know, you know. So Doctor Doom is then, like, left alone because now there's no Fantastic Four. Possibly there's no other superheroes on this world. But I kind of hope that's not the case because that's very 2000s. And that's very boring. I like to see 60s versions of, like, the Avengers or something hanging out with the Fantastic Four, maybe. Yeah, Doctor Doom, and then, I don't know, like I said, he travels the multiverse, he establishes his own cabal, he learns more about Incursions, and that leads into Avengers Doomsday. Avengers Doomsday occurs. God knows what the fuck happens there, but that ends with the final Incursions, which, there's a theory going around that Monica Rambeau got sent to the Fantastic Four's universe that we're going to be seeing, so the X-Men exist there, sort of comic booky related. I can take or leave that, I don't really know. But I feel like that would be an easy way to sort of tie in these two movies and just make those two Earths more unique. Because my thought, after seeing the Marvels, is that Earth that Monica Rambeau lands on is going to be the one that collides with the mainstream Marvel universe. And it takes the equivalent of the of the Ultimate Universe to the MCU's Earth 616 in the comics Secret Wars. There's the lead-in with the Incursions. Doomsday, of course. It's Doomsday. It's also Doomsday because the world is ending. Shit's going bad. They're fighting each other. They're trying to stop this Earth from colliding with that Earth, you know. And that goes into Secret Wars, which will seemingly now see Doctor Doom taking Doctor Doom's role from the comics, which I had always theorized was going to be Kang taking that position. But we all know how that turned out. Something interesting is that the Doomsday logo is green, right? And the Secret Wars logo is red and yellow. Now, who do we know that is red and yellow? I was trying to think of a funny answer, but Big Bird and Elmo, I guess. Maybe Iron Man variants are gonna appear in Secret Wars. My thought, maybe, instead of the Thor Corps, which in the Secret Wars comic is the global police force of Doctor Doom's Battleworld, which is the stitched together remnants of as many alternate realities as he could collect, along with Doctor Strange, and they're all separated by giant, like, walls and borders, and you're not allowed to go from one to the other, or if you are, it's a very rigorous totalitarian process. But the Thor Corps are all the multiversal Thors just collected into one police force. Maybe Doctor Doom makes the Iron Legion. It's already been established, an armor around the world. There's just the police force of the MCU's Battleworld. Could be, will be, a shit ton of variants of Iron Man. That sounds like a pain in the ass to deal with because of how snarky he is, but I could see that happening. I think that's a cool idea that is more in line with the MCU's version of the universe than it is with the comics. Like, in the comics, yeah, it makes sense. It's cool to see the Thor Corps flying around. It's like Jane Foster Thor, and regular Thor, and Kid Thor, and Young Thor, and Frog Thor. But in the MCU, I could easily just see that being replaced by Iron Man. Iron Man's more popular, shocking, and the last Thor movie didn't do that great. And the next Thor movie seemingly, you know, isn't going to happen until after Secret Wars. So, in Deadpool and Wolverine, they say that Reed Richards knew about Incursions. Johnny brings it up briefly. They're talking about, I think, pretty sure it's Incursions, but they're talking about the Void. Maybe they're talking about the Void and Incursions. Something along those lines. I can't remember what. For some reason, I didn't write that part of the note. It's just, they say that Reed Richards knew about. I don't know why I didn't finish that thought. They also go on to discuss how if Charles Xavier had known that Cassandra Nova wasn't taken from the womb, and that he never, like, you know, he doesn't know that he didn't have a sister or whatever. Wolverine's, like, kind of makes the suggestion that he would have ripped the universe apart to get there to rescue her from the Void. So, my thought is that the Void is going to take the place of Battleworld in the comics. It is already a mishmash of tons of universes. You can get there fairly easily if you have access to the TVA's technology. The TVA, of course, from the comics, being a organization primarily seen from the Fantastic Four, created in Walt Simonson's Fantastic Four series. So I think that Dr. Doom or Reed or whoever is going to find and make their way, perhaps Dr. Doom is going to go there with the Cabal, and make his way to the TVA, and then prune the remaining worlds to save them into one dimension that he can then rule. Outside of time and space, where incursions are not going to happen. Because what is the Void? It's not Earth. It's just a place outside of time, like how the TVA is outside of time. Like, here's the bubble of the universe, and the multiverse, and the omniverse, and whatever, and then here's the TVA, and then here's the Void, I guess. Like, what does the end of time mean? Where is the end of time? It's somewhere, but it's probably somewhere where they don't have to worry about incursions happening. And that is what I believe is going to happen with Secret Wars. They're going to just... because they're putting a lot of fucking thought and time into the Void, don't you think? To really have it not pay off to anything else. And this just seems like the perfect use for it is by getting Dr. Doom to turn it into his own battle world. Maybe it'll... like I said, I originally had the thought that the Avengers film leading just before Secret Wars was going to end with the Incursions, and then it was going to have a character that everybody will recognize. At the time, I said Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because I never thought he would actually be in Deadpool and Wolverine. Walking down New York City, and everybody was like, "Ah, it's Hugh Jackman!" And then the camera would pan out, and he's walking down New York, and the camera's zooming out, and then we start to see, like, upstate New York ends right here, and there's a giant barrier, and then on the other side, it's like a 1940s New York, and then over here is a world where everybody's dogs, and everything's made out of fire hydrants, and over here it's Wild West. And then the camera keeps going up, and then it's Battleworld, just spinning in an abyssal blackness by itself, nothing else to see. And it cuts to black, and then the title pops up on screen, and it says, "The Multiverse Will Return in Avengers Secret Wars." But I think that is what is going to happen. And that, I figured it out. This is a watershed moment for this podcast, because I have just unraveled everything that Marvel has planned.